This e-commerce sales funnel is going to make you $100,000 per day using powerful storytelling techniques. This is stuff that people don't talk about within e-commerce. So if you've got an e-commerce brand and you would like to make $100,000 in a day, I'm going to show you exactly how we can drastically boost the sales to your e-commerce Shopify store using storytelling. We're going to use Russell Brunson. This is Russell Brunson here. We're going to use his epiphany bridges and sequence frameworks, apply that directly to your brand, your existing brand. We're going to apply advanced conversion rate tactics to sell 10 times the number of products at 10 times the price without having to get any more traffic. If that sounds really cool, really exciting, that you can actually sell 10 times the amount of products at 10 times the price without having to actually spend any more on ads, make sure you watch this entire video because I've got a lot of stuff to share with you here. So first of all, who is this guy Russell Brunson and why do you need to listen to what he has to say? Well, he built a $100 million a year, actually it's probably above that now, $1 million a year business, which basically allows people to build sales funnels. Now these sales funnels are specifically designed to be multi-page websites where you can sell a product on the first page. When somebody goes to your thank you page, there is another product on that page, and so on and so forth. The idea being, as somebody moves through this funnel and hops between pages, you can gradually increase the amount that that person is spending on your store. So I'm going to show you exactly how you can do this within your own Shopify store, but more importantly, we want to increase the conversion rate on our first page, because the more people that come to our page, the more people will buy. That way we're going to make more money. So he came up with this idea of using stories to sell products. So why are we going to spend time doing this, right? Well, the idea is basically very, very simple. We're going to try and help customers connect with a product and get a deeper level of understanding by addressing their pain points, desires, and aspirations, right? So you can't necessarily sell any product using storytelling. Well, you can, but it's easier to sell a product if you have a problem product, okay? In other words, the problem that that product solves is a large problem in people's lives. There is a big pain and there's a big desire to solve that problem. You can use storytelling to dramatically increase your conversion rates, right? Lots of people do this using a thing known as, and I'll sort of touch on this later, advertorials. Okay, that's one way of doing this, guys. If you're looking forward to this and if you're enjoying the content that I'm creating, I have a free live training going on. Depending when you're watching this, it'll either be tonight or in the next couple of days. I'm doing a live training where I'm going to teach you a whole load of stuff about how to scale your brand, and also a $100,000 per day case study is also going to be in there. So if you have an e-commerce store and you want to learn how to scale and you want to get some free training from me, it's live. Click the link down below or up here in the cards and go ahead and register for that. Right, you'll also get a free course. So the idea is basically when somebody comes through our website, the more we can resonate with that customer, the higher the chances of them buying from our brand are. So, for example, these are sort of the main things that you really want to focus on when you're writing your stories. Now, I will get into how to actually write the stories, but first of all, emotional connection. This is kind of like the key thing when you're starting with emotional storytelling. Most people, they buy with emotion, or they buy on emotion and then they justify that purchase with logic. Okay, so you can't logically try and sell somebody a product. For example, you can't just list out a load of features and then hope they're going to buy. You have to get that emotional connection first, which is why content creation is so powerful to sell products, because you can very easily get this emotion across using things like music and storytelling. So we're going to take those principles and we're going to apply them directly to our Shopify store and watch our sales skyrocket. In other words, stories evoke emotions and an emotional response that can significantly influence purchasing decisions, right? Now, people, like I say, buy on emotion. So, for example, if you can make them feel fear, or you can make them feel pain, or you can make, basically, if there's a problem-solving product and you can bring that emotion of that problem to the forefront of their mind, you've already started to get them in your pocket. Now, the example I always use for this is acne, okay? Because acne is a very, very common problem, and also a lot of people have that problem. Now, you have to remember, when somebody visits your website, if you're selling an acne product, they may not necessarily be in the frame of mind to want to solve that problem. They know they have that problem, but they don't necessarily know they want to get it solved right then and there. So you need to make sure that they are then in that purchasing behavior and they're ready to solve that problem there and then. And the easiest way to do this is by telling a story, okay? Now, there's multiple ways that you can do this. The first way is like anecdote, okay? And this is, if, for example, you have been through the same story, then you can write an anecdote and say, look, this is the situation that I went through, and you can try and relate to them emotionally. I'm going to go through exactly how to write these stories in a second, right? There are other ways of doing this. You can write it as like a review kind of story or a testimonial. In other words, basically, if somebody has come through your brand and they've bought the product and they've left a review or a testimonial, and you've turned that into an advertorial. That's one way of driving an emotional response. Secondly, right, relatability. Okay, this is huge. Most people skip directly over this. When you're building a product page, I want you to just comment down below, right? Have you built a product page, and what was the first thing you did? Was it you just started to list out the features, or did you just write down 5 problems that product had and just say, if you have this problem, we solve this problem, or if you have that problem, this is how we solve that problem? If that's what you're doing, this is why your conversion rate is so low, okay? Customers need to be able to relate, right? They have to see themselves in the story, okay? And the easiest way to do this is tell a story that lots of people would have had. For example, with the acne one that I always go through is basically saying, when I was 14, I had acne. It was bad, so my mum and I went to a dermatologist and they recommended this single cream. I then tried this cream thinking it would solve all of my problems. I was really happy. I was like, finally, I'm going to get rid of this acne. Problem was I used it for 6 months. The acne started to clear, but I had a load of side effects. And then when I stopped using it, then all the acne came back. So that product didn't work. Okay, that is a story to tell somebody, or to try and get somebody on your side, but it's a relatable story because most people, right, who have been to, or who have acne, have been to a dermatologist and have probably been recommended the same cream, and it probably hasn't worked for them as well. Therefore, they should buy your product, okay? And that's kind of the idea through relatability, right? Customers see themselves in the story, and it makes the product feel more relevant to their own lives. In other words, it's like taking personalization to the nth degree. If you can make the product feel personalized specifically for them, they are going to be in your pocket and ready to purchase, right? Memorability, right? Stories are easier to remember than plain facts and features. Now, I've gone through this in previous videos, but there is essentially, imagine a timeline, okay? In that timeline, customers are at certain points ready to purchase, right? And the first point that you have, so first thing I like to really do is sort of label this up into separate sections, right? And the customer goes through these sections before at one point sort of like they're ready to purchase, sort of over here, okay? So the first thing that a customer really goes through when they first see your brand is need, right? A need is kind of like, do they need the product? They're kind of thinking, right, do I need the product? And this is usually when they then find your product, okay? They then go through a consideration period. Now, this can take quite a while, okay? So the consideration period really is, do I need this product, and is this product actually going to help me? And most customers, right, who actually come through a brand, right, like that, whatever. Most people who come to your brand spend quite a long time in this consideration period. They will either, go away and think about it, in other words, they're never going to purchase, or they're going to spend some time reading about your brand, having a look at the product, and the things, right, ideally we want to speed up this consideration period, because at this point, right, they are thinking, okay? And what they're actually doing is they are looking for reasons not to buy, okay? So when a customer comes to your website, right, they're not immediately, they come to your website because they obviously want a solution to their problem, right? But they are now looking for reasons not to buy. In other words, they want to find a product that's actually going to work, and they don't want to fall into the trap of buying yet another thing that isn't going to work for them. So they're looking for reasons and basically bad press about your business, which is going to convince them not to purchase your product, right? So what you need to do is make sure this consideration period is as quick as possible, right? Most people go away and think about your product without actually looking at your website, right? So basically they just think about it without any additional information, which is the last thing that you want to do. You want to make sure that when they're on your website, they are going to basically complete this consideration period. They then go into a decision-making period, right? And this is basically the point where they purchase, right? We're going to put this here, decision making period, and then right afterwards we've got a whole load of other stuff which is incredibly important, and this is the stuff I kind of go through in the live training, right, and how you can build like huge multi-million-dollar brands, right? But this one, right, you've got delivery, what have we else got? We've got usage, okay, and then we've got loyalty. I can't spell. You get the idea, right? Loyalty. In other words, when somebody has now purchased your product, or that product has arrived, they then use that product, and if the product is good, they will then come back and buy your store. Not buy your store, buy from your store. They will buy more products, right? So memorability is incredibly important in this stage, because if somebody is going through the consideration period and they end up leaving your store, right, and they are basically thinking about your product, they need to remember about your product, right? They need to think, okay, actually, I've just thought about this product. I spent all week thinking about how this product can help me. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to purchase the product. This is not going to happen if you just list out features or you just list out problems and solutions. You have to make it memorable for people. That way they're going to come back and buy, right? They're easier to remember than plain facts or features. And that's kind of like the importance of the memorability part, right? Differentiation. This is huge. If you're in a very, very competitive niche, right, storytelling can set a product apart from competitors by creating a unique narrative. In other words, this kind of comes back to making it a little bit more relevant to their own lives. In other words, making it feel more personalized, okay? If somebody comes to website A and website A is just doing a conventional product page, I'll show you this workflow diagram in a second. If somebody's doing a conventional product page, and it's just listing out benefits and features, and then somebody over here has actually told a long story about how they have been through the same pain before, they've had the same desires and aspirations, and finally they bought this product and the product then solved their problem. It's much easier to remember that story, okay? You can probably recount more stories from your life and from your friends' lives that they've told you and from books that you've read than you can list facts straight off the bat. And the reason is just because humans in general remember stories better, and it's much more emotional response, okay? Finally, it builds trust. Okay, so a well-crafted story can build trust and credibility with the audience. And the reason it builds trust basically comes back down to this bit, and a little bit of memorability, but mostly relatability. Because it's like when you have a friend, right? If you try and sell a friend on a product, or I tell you what, the easiest way of defining this is actually if we're going to draw a very basic marketing funnel for this to kind of explain my point, okay? So imagine you have a funnel, okay? When you are trying to sell a product, there are multiple stages in that funnel, okay? So you're trying to sell to people who have, like, you have your hot audience, your cold audience, and your warm audience, okay? Let's write this in white, okay? So this would be your cold audience, okay? These are people who don't know you. These are your warm audience, and then these are your hot audience, okay? It's much easier, obviously, to sell to your hot audience. These would be people who've bought from you before, people who know you incredibly well, okay? But your cold audience are people who really could not care less and are just really looking around on your website. So there's more people who are cold than there are people who are hot, right? So if we come back to here, we're actually trying to build trust. A well-crafted story can build trust because what it does, right, is inevitably when somebody comes onto your store and they're a cold audience, if they read a story that is relatable, that they have been through before, that shows proof and testimonials, and it shows how it's actually solved all of the problems and it's addressed all of their pain points and has all of the same aspirations that they have, suddenly they're like, it's like this person's reading my mind, okay? And when there's somebody's thinking it's like this person's reading my mind, they are basically ready to buy, okay? So you can move them at least down into the warm section of your funnel just from crafting a very well written story. So let's compare a conventional product page with a storytelling product page, okay? So first of all, right, and there are some extra steps to go into this. This is a very simplified version, okay? So the first thing that happens for a conventional product page is the customer engaged in your website? Yes or no, right? If the customer's not engaged, they are going to leave. Now, the reason this happens, right, you will have, and this is kind of, I guess you could call this, right, bounce rate. Because, and this percentage here, right, this percentage is usually, you know, greater than like 30%, okay? That looks wrong, but you get the idea. It was greater than 30%. And the reason that happens is because people come to your website and it just looks generic and there's no reason for them to want to read on, okay? It's very obviously trying to sell them something. They want to actually have a solution, okay? You can't just sell somebody straight away. You need to kind of warm them up and take them through a story, which is what we're going to go through, right? But assuming, right, they are engaged enough and they are willing enough to read the website. So typically, right, this section here, if they're not engaged, the average like time on your store, if you have a look at your analytics, if you use Google Analytics, right? So you can do average time on site is about 10 seconds, okay, which means on average when somebody comes to your website, if they spend 10 seconds on your store, they're not going to purchase, right? Most people spend 10 seconds on your store, which means for somebody to purchase, right, you want them to spend easily a minute, maybe 5 minutes on your store. So you have got to increase the average time on your store from 10 seconds to 5 minutes, okay? And the only way to really do that is to build a better landing page. You can't do that just by showing them really cool images and writing out more and more features. The more time they spend on your store thinking about the product, the more chances there are for them to purchase your product, right? So if they're not engaged, they're going to leave. If they are engaged, they're going to read the product features. And this is really the important thing here. Does the product meet their needs? So this, the only thing that's going to define yes or no for them If it's not, they're going to leave. If it does, they're going to buy, right? The only thing that's going to define yes or no for them is how well you have listed out the features, right? Have you listed out every single feature, okay? Feature 1, feature 2, etc., all the way down. Have you listed out all of the problems, right? All of the pains that people have had. Have you listed out all of their limiting beliefs? And I've gone through limiting beliefs in my other videos, but I will go through this a little bit on my free training if you join the link down below, right? But have you listed out all of these things, and then have you addressed all of these things on your landing page? Because if you have not, chances are the customer doesn't think that product meets their needs, so they're not going to purchase, right? If they do purchase, you're going to get probably maximum like a 1.5% conversion, okay? And this is just not enough, right? If you want to make the goal at the beginning of this video was to build a $100,000 per day sales funnel, okay? You cannot build a $100,000 per day sales funnel on a 1.5% conversion rate. It's never going to happen. It's very, very difficult to make it profitable. So on the other side, right, storytelling product page. Is the customer engaged by the story? Exactly the same thing. Yes or no. If they're not engaged, they're still going to leave. We cannot capture everybody. They're not all going to be engaged. That is a fact. But remember I said here, right, average time on store is 10 seconds. Typically, when somebody reads a story, the average time on store will be, it should be at least a minimum of 60 seconds to 120 seconds, okay? This is a huge increasement. This is 6 times to 12 times improvement on the amount of time somebody spends on your store. And obviously, with the more time they spend on your store, the more chances they are to have, the more chances they are going to be engaged, and the more chances there are going to be for them to purchase your product, right? So that is basically the idea of like storytelling. Essentially, it's exactly the same thing as if you were to, let's just draw a little graph here, and bear with me on this one. Imagine, right, every single landing page that you built, every single product page that you build is exactly the, I'll put this here and here, is exactly the same as creating organic content for TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, whatever content you're creating to promote your product. You have a retention curve, okay? Now, most people have a retention curve on their store, right, like this. People are going to come to their store and then instantly they're going to leave. This is going to be the 10-second mark, okay? No, it's not. This is the 10-second mark, okay? Most people are going to leave before 10 seconds. You've got to make sure, right, that you increase the amount of time that they spend on your stores. Exactly the same as a retention curve that you have on your website. And basically what you want it to look like is something like this, okay? Because the more time that they spend on your website, the more chance that you have to increase your purchase, right? And the higher this number is here, the higher the retention curve, the higher your conversion rate. So the next thing they kind of go through is, does the story resonate? Okay, because again, now they're reading like the emotional story. Beforehand, they're just reading the product features, right? Which is not going to resonate to them at all. The emotional story, does it resonate? If you've done your research, it should resonate. If not, the customer leaves. If yes, the customer is now going to read the features within the story. They're now going to understand exactly how that product's going to help them, right? And at each step through this process, the trust is going up, okay? There is more trust between you as a brand and that customer the more they go through this story, okay? Then they're going to decide, does it meet their needs? If not, they're going to leave. If yes, they're then going to purchase, right? And this is going to get you, if you're getting anywhere lower than like easily, right, a 3.5% conversion rate, your conversion rate should be greater than or equal to 3.5%, then you are basically writing a very, very poor story. Okay, so now what we've done is we've gone from a 1.5% conversion rate to a 3.5% conversion rate. So we're just going to do the quick maths on this one, right? Let's say we have 10,000 people on our website. Okay, and out of those 10,000 people onto our website, we convert 1.5% of them, which is going to be 150 customers, but we are selling a product for $50. That looks like 150, but it's not, right? It's $50. This is going to give us a price of, we're going to make $7,500, yeah, $7,500 in revenue, okay? So our revenue is $7,500. Now, imagine this situation, right, where we have 10,000 people coming onto our store, and we have a 3.5% conversion rate. Obviously, in this case, right, we're going to sell 350 people on a $50 product. We haven't even increased the product prices yet, right? But the revenue on our store is now going to be, that's right, $17,500. Okay, so by increasing our conversion rate, we are now getting a significantly higher amount of revenue. Okay, and here's a really, really cool thing, right? The profit on this store, okay, let's say it's 20%. Okay, and then we'll have a look at the conversion rate of this one as well. So at 20% profit margin, we should be making $1,500 in profit from 10,000 clicks to our website, which is pretty good, pretty happy with that. But now, right, if we've increased our conversion rate through storytelling, we are going to make, right, we'll write down here, a 30% conversion rate, for example, right? We're converting more people, which means for the same amount of traffic, we're getting more customers through our store, which means our cost per purchase is actually decreasing, right? The number of, if we're spending, $1 cost per click, right, and we have to get 100 clicks to make a sale, we have to spend $100 for our CPA. But if we're getting a cost per click of $1 and we get 100 clicks, but we get a 3.5% conversion rate, we need to spend, what is the number on that, right? Well, even if we say like we get 3 sales, right, a 3% conversion rate, for every 100 clicks, we get 3 sales, which means basically we have a $33.33 cost per purchase. I think that's correct. Somebody check my maths. But the point is, we are getting 3 times the less. Yeah, that is right, obviously. We're getting 3 times lower CPA, which means we're getting a much higher profit margin, okay? So I'm just estimating here 30% profit margin, okay? Which means we are going to come out with, I think it comes out to 5,000, I've written it down here, $5,250 in profit, okay? So from the same amount of traffic, we have gone from 10,000 clicks to making $7,500 in revenue, to making 10,000 clicks and making $17,500 in revenue. But more importantly, right, for every 10,000 clicks to our website, we have gone from making $1,500 in profit to $5,200 in profit. Which means, right, what is that number, right? Divide that by 1,500. That is obviously, right, a 3.5 times increase in profit, okay? Literally just by telling stories. So that's generally the idea that you should be getting if you're writing a proper story. So now, right, you're probably wondering, how on earth do I actually write a story? Well, this video is kind of going on a little bit, so I'm going to turn this into another video, but we're going to use Russell Brunson's Epiphany Bridge idea to tell a story, and also sequence frameworks. That video will be on the channel. It will be the one after this. I'm not sure what the title will be. I will try and leave it linked down below if it's published when you're watching this video. But go ahead and watch that video as well. But if you do need any extra help and you are interested in scaling your e-commerce brand and you want to learn some proper techniques and actually building a long-term sustainable e-commerce brand, click the link down below or go to the link in the cards and register for the free training, 2 hours of free training where I'm basically going to teach you everything and give you $100,000 per day e-commerce case study. This store here, the store that I bought to $100,000 in one day. I'm going to do a full case study on that. 2 hours of live training for you if you're interested in that. The link is down below. But yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye.